All right. So in terms of the terminology, and then when we are seeing this get data, so what we are basically seeing here is we want to point to one specific source, and when we want to get the data. So when we last connected, we have used the OData connector here. So here you see we have the OData feed. So we say we want to connect to this OData feed, and we provide the credentials. So now we have this URL, but when you're connecting to a SQL server, so what all information you need to have is, so you have a SQL server here in the dropdown. So in this one, you need to have the server name. So in an organization, you will have a development environment, you will have a UAT environment. So UAT environment will be meant for most of the testing purpose, and then you will have the production environment. So the way your development gets promoted is you will be doing most of your development in your development environment, and then you will have the capability of making a lot of changes during your development. So let's say you get feedback from the user. So you build one visual, and then now they want to have a visual in a different way. So you are getting a feedback from the user, and then you make the changes. And then from there, what you do is, so let's say if your report is ready for data validations, then you move it to the UAT version, and then your report is validated in terms of numbers, if you're showing the numbers correctly. And then from there, it's promoted to the production workspace. Once the report is in the production workspace, you are giving that report access to a broader audience. So let's say if you're working with a marketing team, then you provide access to your created dashboard to the complete marketing team here. So same thing happens on the database side as well. So any development they do it in the development database, promoted to the UAT workspace, the UAT database, and then from there it's promoted to the production database. When you're doing the development, so they will recommend you to point to the development workspace. So let's say today is your first job, and then they assign you a report to do the development. You will be asking what's the development database you have to use, and then what's the UAT, and what's the production. Because when you're in the next stages of your development, you also have to change the server and database name as well. So here you will be given two different options here. So let's say I'm picking a random example here. So I'm picking, let's say if they have the server name as Northwind server, and then let's say the database name is monthly monthly sales. So this information will be provided by your client. And we have two options here, whether it's like an import mode or a direct query mode. So within the import mode, you get a copy of the data here. So you already have the table or a document sitting on your system. What you're doing is you're bringing a copy of the data here in your Power BI file. And apart from that, so let's say if you're given a SQL query, then you can directly write it from here. So I can say select star from uh, so dbo dot uh, fact underscore sales, and then it will be able to pull all the columns as we are using star here from fact sales table. So if you want to just specify the number of columns you want to retrieve, you can do it. But overall, the number of uh, parameters or number of variables you need to have for connecting to a database for retrieving the information is, you need to have server name. That's the first thing. As an example, we said this is the Northwind server, and then we have the database we want to connect. What's the connection mode? Do you want to completely pull a copy, or do you only want to mention a reference? So we will go in details about this import mode and direct query mode. And then after that, we also have the option for putting a select query in the advanced option. Okay. So this is how we get it. And then same thing we were able to get when we were able to connect to the Northwind data set. So good thing is, so let's say now you connected to the Northwind data set, right? So you see it's able to retain that information. I'll be able to come back here in the recent sources, and then I'll be able to click on this Northwind data source connection. And directly, instead of me plugging in the OData URL link, it will be able to show me all the table name. So this is how you'll be able to see when you'll be when you're able to connect to a SQL server. So it will list you all the table names you have, and then you can click on one specific table name and see list of all the columns you will have. Okay. And then you go ahead. So one of the only options, so let's say if I click on customers here, so the only option we covered till now is the load, but we would explore more on the transform data option, where you have the flexibility to make any changes to your data. Okay, so are you guys able to follow?
Yes.
So
Yes.
our focus till now was only that we are working on the import mode. Import mode is like we are getting a copy of the data. It is mostly like getting that Xerox copy of the data over here. Okay. So let me pause the screen here, and then let me uh, let me stop sharing, and let me open a whiteboard. Share the screen and a whiteboard. Okay. So yeah, you guys can let me know when you're able to see the screen.
We are able to.
Okay. So let's pick two different examples here. So we have a database, and sorry for my bad drawing. So let's say this is the database, SQL Server database, and let's say here we have the Northwind OData. I have the text box here. Let me type here. So this is OData, Northwind. So let's say there's another database. Let me change the color here. So this is SQL Server. SQL Server will be from Microsoft. So this will be Microsoft SQL Server. Let me make it more specific. And let's say we are we have the information for Amazon monthly sales. Okay. So when we are bringing in Power BI in picture, so let me quickly draw. Okay. So when we are bringing in Power BI in picture here, so what we are basically saying is we want to get a copy of the data either from Northwind, if you're using that OData connector, or what we are saying is we want to connect to a database and get a copy of the data. So the only option what we have covered until now is the import mode connection. Okay. There are other options as well, but for now, let's only keep the focus as the import mode. So the steps what Power BI engine will take when it is able to retrieve the data and handle it is, so first it will, uh, first what we'll do is provide server name and DB name. Second is it will authenticate the user. So whoever you're connecting, so let's say if you have your credentials that you can use to connect to the database, or if you have your database credentials, then you will be using that. And then third is it will import the table. So let's say we have the fact underscore sales table. Okay. So these are the three steps it was able to complete. And step number 4, which is important, as yesterday we said we will be discussing about the VertiPaq engine, storage engine, and formula engine. So this is the important thing here. So Power BI, it stores the model in a columnar storage. So storage mode is columnar. So what it means is, so let's say if we have the schema for fact sales, so so schema, let's assume we have the sale date, and then we have amount, and then we have person name. So what Power BI will do is it will make use of the VertiPaq engine. So it uses VertiPaq engine, and then it will do two things here: A, compression, and then second is it splits each column of the table and stores it separately. So are you guys able to follow this one, the steps we are doing here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the key terms from here is server name, database name, authenticating a user, importing a table. So you guys should be practicing using this terminology because it's really important to use this. And then the storage mode, what Power BI uses is the columnar storage. And then schema, we are taking the example as a sale date, amount, and then the person name here. And then it uses the VertiPaq engine to do the compression, and then split each columns of the table and store it separately. So what actually happens in compression is, so let's say you have 10 GB of data if you want to pull, based on the data type, and then based on the cardinality, number of unique values you have, it will be able to compress the data and then show you only as like a 1 GB. To see the size of your Power BI report, then DAX Studio will come in picture. So let me pause it here, and then let me now go to my Power BI report and then show you how this different terms would look like for the Northwind data model. Okay. Any questions before I switch to Power BI desktop?
No thanks.
Uh, all right. So let me. Oops, sorry. Okay. So I'm back with the Power BI desktop. So let's only focus on one table here. So let's keep our focus on products table. So what we were saying is we said about two different things, how the VertiPaq engine is helping us. So when we are seeing this table here, so this table has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 columns here. When we see this table, we are able to see that we have this intact information, but behind the scenes, Power BI engine is storing each of the columns separately, and then it applies compression, and then it will have different algorithms for a numeric column, and then a different algorithm for text-based column, and a different algorithm for date-based column to have proper compression applied to that specific column. Okay. So next is I explain about the external tool as DAX Studio, right? We were saying it is able to import the data and then it's able to apply the compression. But I want to know more details about my data model. So I can go into the external tools and then click on DAX Studio. So by clicking on the external tool DAX Studio, it will directly retain the connection and it will provide me the information here. So here you see, I'm able to see all the table names here, right? So I could quickly query my model. So as I mentioned, when you're working on the DAX Studio, so you have to use the evaluate function, and then you can drag and drop the customers table, and then you can say run here. So you see, you're able to see the same information. So you have the information here. I'm sorry, it's the product. So let me remove the customers and then let me drag and drop the products here. So when I say evaluate, so it's able to retrieve the same information here. So you see I have 77 columns, and then here also I have 77 columns here. Okay. But now to see your data model information, because as we are in the first step, so we imported the data, and then now we want to see our model, then we have to go in the advanced tab here at the top, and then we have to say view metrics. Okay. So within this view metrics, we will have a bunch of tabs here. So if I come to the summary here, it will show me the size of the model. So you see 4.71 MB. So this is the size of our model after compression, and it will also show us the high level information, how many tables we have, how many columns we have. Okay, so let's just go on a high level here today, because in terms of the tables, we were trying to target the products table here, right? So let's search for the product tables. So here we have it. For so let me put okay. So for products table, so we were able to see just the product name, um, the supplier ID, category ID, and then the other information here, right? But behind the scenes, so you see here, the DAX Studio, it's able to provide me for that specific product name column, how many products I have. So you see we have 77 products here. And then you should also be able to see for those 77 products, how many unique supplier IDs we have. So it's 29 supplier ID. And then how much of a size this particular table is taking. So this is 45,000 bytes. So all the information you see here will be in bytes. And then how much is the column size? So this is the total table size. And then within that, what's the column size? So let's say you're now ready to publish this report to the broader users, and then you're seeing that you're not using this quantity per unit. So what you could do is you can delete this column, and then you can save a space here, because all the Power BI models will be in your RAM. They will not be in your physical storage. So you have to be very careful about how many number of columns you want to bring in. So that's the reason this DAX Studio is a really helpful tool. So you want to make your model very lightweighted. And let's say if you're not using this table completely, then you could see you'll be able to save some certain storage here. But again, going back to the products table here, you have the data size, you have the dictionary size, and then you have this encoding. So encoding is nothing but the algorithms it is applying. for compressing the data. So either it could be the hash based value or hash based, or it could be the value based here. So, and then it's also able to show the information of the data types as well. Okay. So for the other column, so let's say if you want to see the table which has the highest percentage of the database, you can sort it here, and then you will see the order details extended is able to uh, take the highest storage, and then within that, the top percentage is the 41.83, which is the product name. So let's say if you already have the product name in another table, which you can use from the other table, so you can come here and then delete this one. Okay. So now, are you guys able to follow how you're able to make use of Knack Studio?
Yes.
Okay. So let me again stop my screen share, stop share, and then share it again, whiteboard, share. Okay. So here we were able to see how the VertiPaq engine is coming in picture, compressing the data. And then why the compression is needed is the way VertiPaq engine works is it uses your RAM, not your the physical storage. Okay. And then it splits each column and then stores it separately. That's because we will be using the columnar storage. Okay. So anything else you guys want to discuss apart from this? Is it overwhelming or are you guys able to follow it?
A little